Kamala Harris is now the favorite to become the Democratic Party's presidential nominee following a disastrous debate performance by sitting President Joe Biden, which prompted many in his own party to question whether he should stay in the race. Just this morning, Angie Craig became the fifth Democratic congressperson to call on Biden to step aside. Now, according to PredictIt's betting market, Harris has a 43% chance of securing the Democratic nomination compared to Biden's 40%. Over on Polymarket, Biden has a 63% chance of dropping out of the race. This is truly an unprecedented moment in American history. We have never seen an incumbent president secure enough delegates to become his party's nominee and then drop out this close to Election Day. Naturally, Biden and the White House have consistently denied these reports, which is to be expected. He will insist that he is staying in the race until he either does or does not. All of this begs the question, though, how would Vice President Kamala Harris, Biden's most likely successor, fare against Trump on a 2024 Electoral College map? I'm going to go through each of the competitive battleground states, filling out my personal prediction ratings for how this hypothetical election scenario would turn out. Before I do get started on that, though, please make sure to subscribe to my channel down below for more election analysis like this. According to my channel analytics page, more than 85% of my viewers are not currently subscribed. I would really appreciate it if we could get that number closer to, say, 50-50 by Election Day. Your support allows me to continue making videos like these. Alrighty, now according to available polling data, VP Harris is generally running behind Biden when pitted against Trump in head-to-head surveys. While Trump leads Biden by about a point, according to Decision Desk HQ and the Hills poll average, Trump leads by around 3 points. This is not necessarily surprising to me. Hypothetical replacement candidates do tend to run behind the presumptive candidate, especially when that presumptive candidate is the president. It's likely that if Kamala becomes the Democratic nominee, she'll bounce back up in the polls to at least as high as Biden once all of the Democrats fall in line with their party's pick. Personally, though, I do believe that Harris has a higher ceiling than Biden at this point. She is very unpopular, of course, but her favorability rating has actually bounced up and ahead of Biden's over the last year or so, at least on net. And for Democrats, it simply cannot get much worse than Biden at this point. His approvals are as low as they ever have been, and not that they've ever been that high. Plus, he has consistently pulled behind Trump nationally and in some key battlegrounds. There is at least a chance that Kamala Harris could gain momentum down the stretch, and therefore have a better shot than Biden would should the party stay the course. With Harris at the top of the ticket, I think you're also more likely to see a spike in Democrats' enthusiasm closer to Election Day, at least among younger and minority voters, two of the party's key coalitions, as poll after poll shows that these voters are just not energized to vote for the 82-year-old white Joe Biden. So saying all of that, I do tend to believe that Kamala Harris would fare better than Biden on a potential electoral map. Here on your screen, I have already filled in the deep blue and solid red states that will either vote Democrat or Republican pretty much no matter the nominees. They voted this way in each of the last 3 cycles by at least double-digit margins, and there's just no reason to believe that they will flip in either direction this November. The answer is yes, I have seen the polls showing a tighter race than expected in states like Washington, New York, and New Jersey, but that's completely typical. In every cycle that I can remember, we've seen similar polls show safe states as toss-up. I remember in 2020 when Biden polled even with or ahead of Trump in Missouri and South Carolina, and back in 2016 when Hillary Clinton looked competitive in Utah. It's just not actually going to happen. Now, the rest of these states, left in a shade of gray, are all more competitive and could theoretically flip under the right conditions for one candidate. Most of them do have a strong degree of lean toward one side. Trump is very likely to hold on to Iowa, Ohio, Texas, Florida, and Maine's 1st congressional district, while Democrats, in this case Kamala Harris, is very likely to hold on to Colorado, New Mexico, and Maine's statewide contest. Trump and the GOP are also unanimously favored to retain North Carolina, while Harris would be slightly favored in Minnesota, Virginia, New Hampshire, and Nebraska's 2nd District. Each of these 3 lean Democrat states have had polls come out in recent weeks that showed Trump within the margin of error, or even leading Biden. They are indeed more noteworthy than in these solid states, as these states have all been decided by narrow-ish margins over the last decade or so. Biden did win Minnesota by 7 in 2020, Virginia by 10, and New Hampshire by 7, after Clinton had carried them by much narrower margins in 2016, 1.5 points in Minnesota, 5% in Virginia, and 0.4% in New Hampshire. Like I said though, towards the start of this video, I do think that for all her faults and unpopularity, Kamala Harris is simply a more viable candidate for Democrats than Joe Biden at this point. There is evidence to suggest that a lot of disaffected Democrats and independents simply want someone that they can feel okay about voting for against Trump, who himself is an unpopular candidate. Harris may not be the ideal fit for the Democratic Party, but she would do better than Biden in my opinion. So now the electoral map comes down to the 6 states that you have probably heard the most about over the last few months: Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. These states entered this cycle as our toss-ups, and while they have shifted around a bit since the start of the campaign, they remain the 6 likeliest states to be decided by the narrowest margins in November. Currently, with Joe Biden as the presumptive Democratic nominee, I have Nevada as a toss-up, Arizona is tilting towards Trump and the Republican Party, Georgia leans Republican, Pennsylvania is tilt Republican, while Michigan is in the toss-up category, joining Nevada, and Wisconsin also tilts towards Trump. Under these ratings, Trump has already surpassed 270 electoral votes with 291 over Democrats' 226. Should Trump win both of these toss-ups, he would hit 312. Now with Kamala Harris as the Democratic candidate here, I'm not going to dramatize things or over-exaggerate her impact to get clicks or engagement. The truth is that she is not a strong enough candidate to move the needle much in either direction. I might be willing to push Georgia from lean Republican to tilting Republican, as I'm sure that Harris could peel back at some of the gains that Trump has made among black voters, a key demographic here, of course, key to Democrats' chances in Georgia. Otherwise, though, I'm just not personally convinced that swapping candidates pushes any of these other states into new rating categories. Kamala might potentially have a better shot at winning these toss-ups here in Nevada and Michigan, but say if Biden has a 45 to 50% chance of winning, she may have a 50 to 55% chance. Either way, it's effectively a coin flip. Ultimately, in the midst of an election season that has already been clouded in a bunch of unknowns, this is yet another. Anyways, that does it for this 2024 presidential election map prediction and analysis. Let me know whether you agree or disagree with these ratings in the comments below. Shout out to my channel members on screen here. Thank you so much for your support. If you'd like to become a member, go ahead and click the join button below this video to receive exclusive perks. Finally, be sure to check out electionpredictionsofficial.com for my latest 2024 presidential election forecast. Please do leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it and subscribe to the channel while you're at it. Check out more content from my channel here, and as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. EP out.